Ladies, we live in a world that tells us vulnerability is strength, and it is. But there's a difference between being emotionally open and emotionally exposed. See, the strongest women I know don't hide who they are, but they're also not handing out pieces of themselves to anyone who hasn't earned it. Today, I want to talk about the 5 things you should never feel obligated to tell a man, especially early on, and sometimes not ever. Why? Because privacy isn't about secrecy, it's about self-respect. This isn't about playing games, it's about emotional self-defense, about preserving your power and building connection in a way that's secure, steady, and real. Let's get into it. When it comes to your deepest insecurities, it's crucial to understand that these are not just little doubts or fleeting worries, they are the vulnerable, raw parts of you that shape how you see yourself at your core. Sharing them is not the same as sharing surface, level feelings, or everyday frustrations. Your insecurities often carry the weight of your past experiences, your fears of not being enough, or the stories you tell yourself about what you deserve in love and life. Handing these over too quickly or to the wrong person can leave you feeling exposed in ways that undermine your confidence and self-worth. Insecurities have a strange way of becoming ammunition in relationships, even unintentionally. A man who hears your vulnerabilities too soon may not always respond with the compassion and protection you hope for. Sometimes what starts as an attempt to bond can be twisted into judgment or worse, manipulation, because when you reveal your most sensitive points before trust is built, you're giving away the power to hurt you. This is why it's so important to gauge who deserves to see this side of you and when the time is truly right. Another layer to consider is that insecurities tend to be deeply personal, tangled with your identity. When you share them, you're essentially inviting someone into the very architecture of how you experience the world and yourself. That kind of intimacy should be reserved for someone who's demonstrated consistent kindness and respect, someone who will listen without rushing to fix or dismiss your feelings. Without this foundation, your vulnerabilities risk being misunderstood or minimized, which can feel even more isolating than keeping them private. It's also important to recognize that your insecurities are not just a burden to be shared, they're a journey to be healed. Before entrusting someone else with these parts of you, make space for your own compassion and patience. When you're actively working on understanding and loving yourself despite your fears, you approach vulnerability from a place of strength rather than desperation. This energy changes the dynamic entirely, making your openness less about needing validation and more about genuine connection. Think about it this way: your insecurities are like fragile glass, beautiful and delicate. If you throw them around carelessly, they can shatter and cut. But if you choose carefully who holds that glass, and when it becomes a precious gift that can deepen intimacy instead of causing harm. So the timing and the recipient matter just as much as the act of sharing itself. You want someone who will cherish your truth, not break it. Lastly, by protecting your insecurities, you're also protecting your ability to stand tall and show up as your best self in any relationship. When you don't feel pressured to expose everything at once, you have the space to build trust gradually and naturally. This allows your confidence to grow alongside your connection, creating a relationship that's grounded in respect, understanding, and mutual care rather than pity or imbalance. It's about holding onto your power while still being open enough to let love in. When it comes to the details of past relationships, it's important to recognize that these stories, no matter how dramatic or defining, belong in your personal history, not in the early chapters of a new connection. Sharing too much about your exes can unintentionally cast a shadow over the present moment. When you bring up the past repeatedly or in detail, it can create an invisible comparison that neither you nor the new man needs. Every relationship deserves its own space to breathe and grow without the weight of what came before. It's natural to want to explain yourself or your patterns by referencing what happened in previous relationships. After all, those experiences shaped who you are today. But there's a fine line between providing context and reliving old stories that can drag you and the person you're with into a cycle of judgment or insecurity. When you talk too much about your ex, it may raise doubts about whether you're truly over that chapter or whether you're still holding on emotionally in ways you might not realize. Another reason to keep past relationship details private is to protect your new connection from unnecessary drama. Sharing intimate or negative stories about an ex can create a sense of baggage, making your new partner feel like they're competing with a ghost. No one wants to feel like they're being compared to someone else, especially someone who's no longer present. By holding back these details, you give your current relationship the chance to develop on its own merits, free from past interference. It's also worth noting that oversharing about past relationships can inadvertently signal insecurity or mistrust. When a woman frequently brings up an ex, it might make the new man wonder if she's truly available emotionally or if there's unfinished business lingering beneath the surface. This can create unnecessary tension or hesitation, Even if the truth is you're just trying to be transparent, timing and selective sharing are key to maintaining emotional clarity and confidence in your connection. Many women feel compelled to share every detail because they want to be honest and authentic, which is absolutely important. But honesty doesn't mean revealing everything all at once. There's power in pacing your disclosures, especially around sensitive topics like past loves. As the relationship matures and trust deepens, sharing some lessons learned or significant moments can actually enrich the connection. But the early stages are better served by focusing on the present and the possibilities ahead. Another important aspect is how the way you tell your past story shapes the narrative of who you are now. If you frame your exes as villains or victims, it can come across as bitterness or resentment, which can be off-putting and distracting. Instead, when you keep details private, you maintain control over your own story. You get to choose what defines you, not your past relationships, but the woman you are today and the future you're building. Remember, a relationship is a fresh start, not a sequel. When you withhold the nitty-gritty details of your past, you're not hiding or being dishonest. You're simply giving the new connection the chance to flourish without unnecessary interference. This doesn't mean shutting down or refusing to talk about your history entirely. It means knowing when, how, and with whom those conversations happen. Finally, the more you respect your past as a private part of your life, the more you teach your new partner to respect you as a whole person. Boundaries around what you share create a foundation of respect and security. This kind of emotional self-protection allows you to stay centered, confident, and fully present, which ultimately makes the relationship stronger and more sustainable. Money is one of those topics that can feel incredibly personal and even taboo to discuss early in a relationship. And for good reason. Your financial situation, your income, savings, debts, and spending habits reveals a lot about your lifestyle, your priorities, and sometimes your vulnerabilities. Sharing these details too soon can create an imbalance in the dynamic between you and a man before the foundation of trust and mutual respect is firmly established. Many women feel pressure to disclose financial information early on because they want to be transparent or avoid future surprises. While honesty is important, there's a big difference between honesty and oversharing. Financial details are sensitive, and when shared prematurely, they can be used consciously or unconsciously to manipulate or judge. A man who truly respects you won't need to know your entire financial portfolio on a first date or even within the first few months of dating. Your money is an extension of your independence and autonomy. Keeping financial details private early on is a way of protecting that independence. It gives you the freedom to observe how someone treats you without the influence of your financial status. Whether you have a lot or a little, your worth is never defined by your bank account. And revealing it too soon can shift the focus away from who you are as a person and onto what you have or don't have. Financial conversations do have their place, but timing is everything. As a relationship grows and becomes more serious, when you're discussing shared goals, long-term plans, or even moving in together, then those discussions become not only appropriate, but necessary. Before that, they can create pressure, anxiety, or even false expectations that disrupt the natural flow of getting to know each other on a deeper level. Another important point is that money often comes with emotional baggage, whether it's guilt, fear, or insecurity. When you keep your financial information private early on, you're also giving yourself space to work through your feelings around money without external pressure or judgment. You don't owe anyone your financial story until you feel fully comfortable and confident sharing it. And that usually comes with time and trust. Being cautious about financial transparency also helps prevent misunderstandings. Sometimes a man might misinterpret your financial boundaries as a lack of trust or honesty, but in reality, it's about protecting your privacy and building a relationship on emotional connection first. Money is practical, but love is emotional, and emotions are best explored before dollars and cents. In the early stages of dating, focusing on values and character rather than finances allows you to gauge compatibility on a deeper level. Who someone is, how they treat you and others, their ambitions, their kindness matters far more than their bank balance. When you hold your financial information close until the relationship is solid, you're prioritizing emotional intimacy over material circumstances. Finally, remember that financial privacy is a form of self-respect. You have every right to decide when, how, and with whom to share that part of your life. It's not a secret to be ashamed of, but it is a personal boundary to be honored. When you keep your financial information private in the early stages, you're creating a safe space for love to grow naturally without distractions or pressures that money can sometimes bring. Your family is often the foundation of who you are, the place where you first learn about love, conflict, loyalty, and values. But just because family is important doesn't mean every detail of their private struggles should be shared with a man you're dating, especially early on. These stories are deeply personal and can be emotionally charged, carrying complexities that are sometimes hard to explain or fully understand outside the family circle. One of the reasons to keep your family's private struggles to yourself is that sharing too much too soon can unintentionally invite judgment or misunderstanding. A man who hasn't walked in your shoes might make assumptions about your background, your upbringing, or even your own character based on stories he hears about your family. These assumptions might not be accurate or fair, but they can influence how he perceives you and the relationship. Family issues often come with a lot of raw emotion, pain, resentment, guilt, or even shame. Bringing these heavy emotions into a new relationship can create unnecessary pressure or discomfort. When you're still building trust and connection, it's healthier to focus on your own feelings and growth rather than the unresolved conflicts of others. Sharing family struggles prematurely might make your partner feel like a therapist or mediator rather than a romantic interest. Moreover, every family has its messiness and no family is perfect. Keeping certain aspects private isn't about hiding the truth or pretending everything is perfect. It's about protecting the dignity of your loved ones and maintaining boundaries that respect everyone involved. Some stories are meant to stay within the family because they are too sensitive or complicated to share without context. Another key reason to hold back family details is to avoid projecting family dynamics onto your relationship. If you're still processing family challenges, it's easy to unconsciously repeat patterns or bring past wounds into your new connection. By not diving into family struggles too soon, you give yourself space to work through those feelings independently or with trusted support so they don't interfere with the new relationship. When you do choose to share family struggles, it's important to do so thoughtfully and intentionally. Wait until the relationship has a foundation of trust and understanding where your partner can respond with empathy rather than judgment. At that point, sharing can deepen intimacy and help your partner understand more about your background, values, and the resilience you've developed. It's also worth remembering that your family's private struggles don't define you. They are part of your story, but they aren't your whole identity. When you keep these stories private, you're affirming your own autonomy and signaling that while you honor your family, you are an individual with your own path and strength. This helps keep the focus on who you are today, not just where you came from. Finally, respecting the privacy of your family's challenges is a way of respecting yourself. It sets clear emotional boundaries that protect your peace and help maintain a balanced, healthy relationship dynamic. By choosing what to share and when, you ensure that your partner gets to know the best version of you, one that is whole, centered, and ready to build something meaningful without being weighed down by unresolved family drama. When it comes to your standards or checklist for a partner, it's natural to have certain qualities you're looking for. After all, knowing what you want is a sign of self-respect and clarity. But there's a big difference between having standards and giving someone your entire blueprint right from the start. Sharing your exact list of must-haves or deal breakers too early can limit the potential for genuine connection and put unnecessary pressure on both you and the man you're getting to know. One reason to hold back your complete checklist is that it can encourage a man to perform or act in ways he thinks will check the boxes, rather than simply being himself. When you hand someone a script of what they need to be, you might end up attracting a version of a person that fits your list on paper but lacks authenticity. Real connection thrives when people show up as their true selves, not as performers trying to win approval. Also, an overly detailed list can create a rigid mindset that prevents you from seeing the full picture. Sometimes, the person who might not tick every box initially is the one who surprises you in the best way, who challenges your assumptions and helps you grow. When you reveal your standards too soon, you risk closing doors before you've even given someone a chance to reveal their true character and potential. It's also worth noting that early discussions about strict standards can make the dynamic feel transactional rather than organic. It can unintentionally communicate that the relationship is more about meeting criteria than about curiosity, discovery, and emotional connection. This can stifle the natural flow of getting to know someone, turning what should be an exciting journey into a checklist evaluation. Furthermore, your standards are often shaped by past experiences, societal expectations, and evolving self-awareness. What you believe you want at the beginning might change as you learn more about yourself and the people you meet. Keeping your checklist private allows you to stay open-minded and flexible, giving yourself the freedom to explore relationships without feeling confined to a rigid set of rules. Sharing your standards too early can also put undue pressure on the man, especially if he's still trying to understand himself or isn't sure if he fits every criterion. This can lead to anxiety or performance stress, which isn't conducive to genuine connection. Instead, allowing someone to reveal who they are naturally creates a space where vulnerability and authenticity can thrive. It's empowering to have standards but it's equally important to cultivate patience and discernment in how and when you communicate them. By pacing this conversation, you give the relationship room to breathe and grow, allowing mutual understanding to develop in a way that feels safe and respectful for both of you. Ultimately, your standards are a tool for guidance, not a rigid contract. Holding them close until you've built a foundation of trust helps you navigate relationships with greater confidence and clarity. It encourages you to focus on qualities that matter most, like respect, kindness, and emotional availability, rather than getting caught up in superficial checklists that might not capture the full depth of a person. When it comes to your relationship expectations, whether it's about marriage, children, timelines, or commitment, there's a natural urge to be upfront and clear. Clarity is important, no doubt, but sharing these expectations too early, before a foundation of trust and mutual understanding is built, can sometimes create unintended pressure or even push a man away. Expectations have a way of shaping the energy between two people, and when they're voiced prematurely, they can feel more like demands than open invitations. One of the biggest risks of revealing your expectations too soon is that it puts the relationship on a fast track before it's ready. This can overwhelm the other person, especially if they're still figuring out their own feelings or aren't in the same place emotionally. When you unload your full vision of the future right away, can create anxiety or resistance instead of excitement and curiosity. Timing matters just as much as honesty. It's also important to recognize that expectations can sometimes be a reflection of fears, fear of being stuck, fear of wasting time, or fear of being vulnerable without a clear plan. When these fears drive the conversation early on, the relationship can start feeling like a checklist to be completed rather than a journey to be experienced. Holding some of these hopes and fears privately while you build connection allows the relationship to unfold more naturally. Many women find that when they share expectations too early, the focus shifts from the present moment to a future outcome. Instead of enjoying the joy and discovery of getting to know each other, both partners might start evaluating whether the other is on track to meet those goals. This evaluation mindset can make the relationship feel like a test or negotiation, which is exhausting and often counterproductive. Another key point is that expectations don't exist in a vacuum. They're shaped by culture, upbringing, and past experiences, and they can evolve over time. When you keep your expectations to yourself initially, you allow space for both partners to grow and change naturally. This flexibility can lead to a deeper, more authentic connection that honors where both people are in the moment rather than forcing a rigid path forward. Waiting to share your expectations also gives you the opportunity to observe how a man acts over time. Actions often speak louder than words. When you see consistent behavior that aligns with your values and desires, it becomes easier and more natural to have those important conversations about the future. This approach helps build confidence that your expectations will be met without having to spell everything out up front. It's also worth mentioning that not every relationship will move at the same pace or even toward the same goals. By pacing your expectations and sharing them when the relationship has a solid foundation, you give yourself the freedom to assess compatibility in a more relaxed way. You're less likely to rush into decisions based on pressure and more likely to choose what truly feels right for you. Finally, building trust before discussing expectations creates a safe environment where both partners can be honest without fear of judgment or rejection. When trust is present, conversations about commitment, timelines, and future plans become collaborative rather than confrontational. This kind of communication fosters deeper intimacy and a shared vision that grows from a place of mutual respect and understanding. So ladies, remember this: protecting certain parts of yourself isn't about playing games or hiding who you are. It's about honoring your worth, setting healthy boundaries, and inviting the right kind of love into your life, the kind that respects you, cherishes your story, and earns every piece of your trust. Keep your deepest truths sacred until someone proves they're worthy of them. When you do this, you don't just protect your heart, you create space for a relationship built on genuine connection, respect, and mutual growth, because the right man isn't someone who needs to know everything up front. He's the one who's patient enough to discover you and wise enough to appreciate all the layers that make you beautifully whole. Hold your power, trust your instincts, and watch how love unfolds, not rushed but real.